Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Day In, Day Out podcast. Woo! Today on episode 266, I am very honored, pleasure to have the voice of University Challenge, the voice of, you could say, of many a thing you may have not have heard of or heard of, the voice of Land Rover, the voice of Range Rover, Jaguar, and a lot more. I have Roger Tilling on the show today. How are you today, sir?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you. And my goodness, with an introduction that good, do you know, I can't wait to watch this podcast myself.
Well, hey, look, I can only bow down to like a voice such as yours, which has been on so much and done so much. But yes, it's weird how we met. Like, you know,
Actually, isn't it? Yes.
yeah, because like this is the thing. When I hear like the voice of University Challenge before we met at a work function, I like you could walk down the street and I would not have recognized you. If you spoke, I'd be like, oh, wait a second, what's going on here? But yeah, it's here today, you know?
Yeah, we've done quite a few awards events together actually, which has been great fun.
Yeah.
We tend to turn up at places like the Grosvenor House Hotel in London, don't we? All these rather glitzy places.
Well, yes, glitz, glamour, and all in the realms of heating and ventilation, like RAC cooling, and yes, other like things like just plug in like the old EMAP, give them a little bit of a shine. But I have to ask before we go up to present day and like what you've been doing, how did you get started doing this whole like voiceover world?
I know it's a ridiculous way to make a living, isn't it? It's crazy. I never actually planned to do this. I always fancied being a pilot. Ever since I was a child, I wanted to be a pilot. That was it. So I took a gap year after doing my A levels, and then I went to, in fact, I stacked supermarket shelves and cleaned offices and that, and got the money together like every student does. You know, you'll do anything as a student. And I went to America, and I got my private pilot's license. I was that determined. And so, yeah, I went over to Texas and got that. And then I took my position at university and I did aeronautical engineering, which was at Queen Mary College, University of London. And then I kind of thought, right, you know, kind of British Airways, here I come, or one of the big commercial airlines, because they used to train you, they used to pay for your training as a pilot, which is very, very expensive. And I thought, you know, this is it. Got me private pilot's license, got me degree in aeronautical engineering. I know me lift coefficients, all that kind of stuff. And this was the mid-90s, 1994. And it was still, you know, kind of a recession time as far as airlines were concerned. After the first Gulf War, I am that old that I graduated just after the first Gulf War. Yeah. Yeah, I'm 103.
Wow.
And I'm looking very good.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm looking lovely. I know.
There must be a life-size painting of you somewhere in your house.
Yeah. So, and unfortunately, no airlines were recruiting. So I left university with a degree and no airlines were recruiting. They were getting rid of pilots. So I thought, right, okay, RAF, here we go. So I went along for 2 days of health checks. And, you know, you go through and these specialists, they cut a long story short, they spend 2 days prodding and poking you and putting you on machines and attaching things and testing your health and tick off the right, go to room 326 now and have your eyes tested. So you do that for a couple of days and you get psychological evaluations and interviews, all that kind of stuff. Each hurdle you jump through, you're sent to another room. It's all very exciting. And then, on the second day, the very last thing they do is measure you. They put you in this weird contraption. And they measure you like, you know, kind of all dimensions, all that kind of thing. And this bloke with a clipboard looks up at me and goes, "Oh, I think we might have a problem here, mate. You're an inch too tall buttock to knee length." And I said, "Hey," and it's, well, if you've got to eject from a plane, you're going to lose your legs from your knee downwards. And at this point, I'm just thinking, no, don't do this, please, after everything I've been through. So you start trying to appeal to them, like, well, I'll put the seat back, I'll shrink. Because I am pretty tall. I'm about 6'6". Yeah. I should have the clues were there really before I went along for this. But anyway, I was turned down because I was too tall. So it just wasn't meant to be, I don't think. And I always fancied doing some radio. It always fascinated me, broadcasting. I was always interested. I used to go along and see how TV programs were made, all that kind of stuff. It used to fascinate me. And so I ended up doing local radio, kind of doing the graveyard shift, 10 till 2. And it's back in the days when they had record players. Most of your young hip viewers, won't know what one of those is. We used to actually put this kind of disc on a turntable.
I would say this. Look, I would say if you're talking about young hip kids today, they will know what a record is, but they'll have no idea what a CD is, because vinyl is making a small resurgence.
Actually, it's true. Yeah, CDs are now the forgotten technology, right? Yeah. And in fact, and I remember when they came out, because they used to say, oh, these are so reliable, you can spread jam on them, they'll still play perfectly. Yeah. The slightest fingerprint. And I used to use those in radio, because now it's all off a hard drive and all that kind of stuff, which is very handy for radio. But yes, it was off records and CDs. And so every so often the CD would just jolt, and you just have to make up some kind of joke about it. I don't know. Being missold and told you could spread jam on them, they would work. But they're so unreliable. Yes.
Yes, like when you bring out a brand new CD or technology where each disc most already costs thousands of pounds to produce.
Yeah,
you can do that. But when you're sort of now bringing out CDs which cost maybe 10, 20 pence to produce, that's not going to weather this same test of time. So when you sit down too violently, it will skip. Or touch the table, it will skip. Yeah, oh God, CDs. I remember struggling with a Discman. It wasn't a very expensive one, and you're going along and skip.
Absolutely. And this is something, you're meant to jog along with it, aren't you? Yeah. It's meant you kind of do your exercise in it, and just the slightest jolt, and you're on to the next track.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that was what it was like doing local radio in the 90s. Playing records at the wrong speed, which I was terrible at. And CDs jolting and sticking and doing all kinds of things. But it was great fun. Anything that could possibly go wrong goes wrong in local radio. So it's a great grounding for any kind of broadcasting or voiceover, career. I would definitely recommend it. It was great.
Yeah, I know local radio, it's not so much, it's in your past, but this is the thing. Local radio kind of suffered the same way as sort of local papers in some regards, where there are not as many local radio stations, or is it being quite robust and it's managed to stand the test of time? So if someone wants to go down the same route as yourself, do they still have those options?
I think you've hit on something quite big there, especially since I started in the mid-90s. There was this kind of merger of all stations and radio groups all merging together, and then they were doing this networking thing, where, pumping out one program from a number of from one place across a number of stations. And yes, that's definitely kind of increased. It's been a bit like a game of Monopoly, really. These companies buying up smaller radio groups, and yes, I think it is harder these days because of that. You've got just several big radio groups, haven't you? And they just kind of seem to transmit a program from somewhere in London across 40 radio stations. They just hit a button and it plays an individual jingle to each radio station. So it has. I think the whole industry has changed drastically that way. We are actually seeing a resurgence of new stations starting up, though, across the country. It's weird. It seems like to go in a cycle. You know, so you've got all these big brands. I won't mention any, but you know the big brands that you can hear all up and down the country, which sound like
your BBC training kicking in right there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I desperately got to work for some of these guys.
Hey guys, I heard you on that podcast the other day. No, that wasn't me. No, like it's got your picture there. No. It's like it's got your whole bio there. No.
But no, it's funny that they've kind of branched out in other ways. So you have a new generation of smaller local radio stations starting out, which is quite fascinating, and not just in the old-fashioned kind of FM and AM frequencies and that, but you've got a lot of digital stations which have started up, a huge amount, locally, regionally, as well as nationally. So yeah, I think you've got to work a little harder to find these stations if you wanted to actually start out. But in fact, my favorite thing when I began was actually hospital radio, which was great fun. The irony is I ended up doing commercial radio before hospital radio in the end, because hospital radio was so popular in Watford, where I'm originally from.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly, I think it's about a 3-year waiting list to do any work on radio, on the hospital radio. So I ended up doing commercial radio first, but I used to absolutely love doing hospital radio. We used to have a radio show called Down Your Ward. And it was about 5 or 6 of us that used to just work together and have so much fun doing it. Going right down the wards with radio mics and doing quizzes, you know, with the patients and that. And I learned a huge amount from that. So it was just great fun. So my advice would be, if you can join a hospital radio station somewhere, do it. It's incredible fun. You work with some lovely people. Once again, I've noticed that they seem to be merging. A lot of hospital radio stations seem to be kind of grouping together, because mine was Watford Hospital Radio, and I've noticed recently they've joined up with, I think, Hemel Hempstead, and they've just, I forgot what it's called, the Pulse, I think it's called, and so they've joined 2 hospital radio stations together, which I suppose makes it more financially feasible. But it's quite fascinating to think that, you know, that mergers are occurring in hospital radio as well.
Yeah, but I would thought that would take a bit. Okay, I can understand with sort of regional radio stations like sort of merging, all coming from one place like London, and go, right, yeah, we're just focusing and putting the individual jingle in front of that, and now the resurgence is coming back. But when you go hospital radio, I would thought it would be like, yeah, it's got to have that personal touch for that hospital. So, you know, I mean, like the patients who are there have that vibe. They've got that sort of local community and that sort of local connection with just that station. I know it's not, I don't know how far it gets broadcast out to, but it's just the heartbeat of that, like, you know what I mean, community.
Yes, I know exactly. I think maybe where they have merged, they are close enough to do that. But yes, it's a shame that that's happening in hospital radio. And I think you're right. It does require it to be within one hospital to make it really personal and allow you to actually go round the wards and provide the service that the hospital radio station was originally designed to provide. Yeah.
I am curious because, like, okay, you've done this backwards because, okay, commercial, then hospital, when it should normally be hospital, then commercial. Like, what was one of the sort of key takeaways you could say you took from each industry at the beginning?
I think the thing I learned from both was that you're always just talking to one person. I think that was an important thing to learn. Another thing, especially from local radio, I was lucky enough to do interviews, and we'd have phone-ins, and we'd get like a financial expert from a local bank or building society, and we'd all do all kinds of phone-ins. So it's very quickly that you learn that listening is actually more important than talking. It is just so easy to talk into a microphone when you're on the radio, but actually listening, to the person on the phone, your expert next to you, and that was a really good grounding. And back in those days as well, local radio, it was just you. You didn't have a producer and a technical person and all the luxuries that you have on national radio. It was just you and your sticky fingerprints over a few CDs, basically, to rely on. And so, I learned some pretty valuable lessons, very simple ones, but it was great grounding, really was.
Excellent. Look, for my podcast, I've got a team of 10 people.
I can see them.
Yeah.
Luxury.
All the little voices in my head. Sorry, what? It's like, yeah, because but getting that sort of grounding and everything like this for doing local radio, speaking, doing the interviews, and being on ward. Would you say it was one of the things what helped shape you to be like a sort of, you're a very warm character, from meeting you from the first time up until present day? I don't know what you might be like behind closed doors. See someone
horrible.
Easy. See someone run past, let me out. He's like, what? Who are you looking at? But would you say that was part of the thing what helped develop your sort of personality?
I think I've always enjoyed the situations that frighten me a bit. I've always enjoyed that bit of adrenaline.
Yeah.
And you always get that when you do anything live, whether it's one of the awards events in London, that we work on, or whether it's a radio show or even just something that involves a TV studio audience, and you're there and you've got to get it absolutely right, from the beginning. I've always enjoyed that thrill. So that's good. But I think things like that always give you more confidence. I feel more relaxed, as a result of 28 years of this kind of shenanigan. I think it's probably made me very comfortable in a lot of kind of situations that otherwise would have scared me, all those years ago.
Yes. No, but this is the thing. 28 years. And this is the thing people don't realize when they look at modern day television and stuff like this. They don't realize how much it's changed and how it's evolved from back in the day, because I am old enough to remember, the free TV channel system. You see your face change here, then Channel 4 coming along, and basically Channel 5. But the regional TV stations and everything like that sort of blow your mind, like Granada TV, Thames TV, all of that. I remember Pebble Mill. That's how,
Yeah, so do I.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's the thing, because after radio, I went into TV continuity.
Yeah.
So I got a freelance job at West Country Television, which was a lovely company which served the southwest of England at the time, and it was in Plymouth. And I was their freelancer, so I would go down and do 4 days at a time and that. So, for anyone who doesn't know what a continuity announcer is, it's that person that kind of introduces or talks about the programs in between the programs. What's coming up next? Trouble in Store in Coronation Street, that kind of thing. And it was lovely. So I used to drive down there and do the continuity. And then I got a full-time job at Granada Television in Manchester. It was advertised in Broadcast magazine, and so I sent off a show reel, and I got that, which was just great. So I was a continuity announcer full-time and a promo voice, which allows you to do lots of other different voices, because the promos are those trailers that come on, kind of Taggart tonight at 9 on Granada, all that kind of stuff. So you have to sound all gritty for murder mystery dramas, and all cheerful for comedies. You have to sound like you were amused by what you were watching, kind of. You'd have to say, kind of almost laugh a little bit, kind of misunderstandings in watching Tonight at 7 on Granada and that kind of stuff. And it was great fun.
I go, what did you turn the podcast into? I just got him to announce just like shows and stuff. It was fascinating. What, you mean, how long did you do it for? 4 hours. I looked into his eyes. It was like, let me go, please. But no, I persisted.
And I couldn't believe my luck when I got that gig. Oh. It was great fun, and it was such an iconic building because this was Granada Studios in Manchester. So that you'd have half the cast of Coronation Street walking down the corridor. You'd be thinking, oh my God, that's Deirdre Barlow, and it was just like another world. And they'd have all these other shows going on. They would be doing the Mrs. Merton show at the time with Caroline Aherne, which was absolutely hilarious. All kinds of stuff going on in those studios. And of course, that's how I got University Challenge. But yes, but you're right, though. All those regional companies have sadly gone, like Granada and Thames, LWT.
Yeah, because like this is the thing. Like one of the things being a proud Londoner who now lives in the middle of the country, but like what I mean. Like back in the day when there was Thames Television, and then at 6 o'clock they shut Thames Television down on a Friday. I think it was 6 o'clock or 5:45, and then
it changed over the years. When I was there, it's 5:15. Because actually being a vocal tart, a media tart, I also used to work for LWT as well. Exactly. I did that for 5 years.
Exactly. Trading your wares, I see.
Exactly. I used to do like Granada, but maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday drive down to London, and then do Friday, Saturday, Sunday for LWT. So and it was great because it was very in your face. You're right. It used to switch from Carlton or Thames or whatever to LWT, and LWT was determined to sound very different, to the weekday ITV in London. So the only way they could do that is to really make it kind of loud, So you would open that mic and go, "It's 5:15. This is LWT," and it was, and you used to get a real kick out of doing that.
Like it's one of those things. Wow. That's quite a mad week right there. Look, you might be doing the sort of continuity, but okay, going from Manchester to London and basically, taking over, and then basically still doing some things for Thames or Carlton TV. Jesus, I see Carlton TV. I have to struggle to remember that because Thames was so iconic. Then Carlton came along. And then
very good knowledge. Yeah. Yes,
and it kind
of. But I've got to admit, I was younger then. I much younger, and somehow I could work 7 days a week at that time. Yeah. I don't think I could do it now.
Hey, you never know. You never know. But but this is the thing. That sort of age of television, compared to say now, do you kind of remember it with a realm of sort of a bit of romance or that sort of heyday nostalgia? Or is it a case of you're you know what, happy with the way things are now? Not just through the fact that you're doing University Challenge, but the whole sort of general vibe,
Yeah, I definitely look back with fond memories. I look back nostalgically. Not only in the era that I used to work in, but then, which was the 90s and early 2000s for ITV, but also before that, I think back to the 80s. I absolutely loved that identity that each region had, and they had an Envision announcer, didn't they, in most of the regions, sitting usually in front of a Hessian curtain with a pot plant somewhere and a TV logo maybe over there, and telling you what would be coming up, tomorrow night or whatever. It was incredible. It was very twee. It was slightly cheesy, but incredibly, there was something very homely about it. And as like you, I grew up in the London region, so it'd be Thames. So you'd have the River Thames behind you, and Peter Marshall or somebody else telling you what was coming up next. It was great. And I just used to love that way they used to look to the monitor, didn't they? You know, kind of, but first, let's go to Coronation Street.
Yeah. But like, it's the thing, if you said, like, if you, I would love to see a group of millennials or like just like, yeah, this is what ITV was like. And like basically having those guys like sort of announce the TV shows beforehand, like you not just a voiceover, it was like them, as you say, sitting there, like talking through and then like, yeah, looking to the monitor. Like when I was a kid, it wasn't strange at all. But when you kind of like think about it, you're like going, why did you guys do it like that? But you know, it worked. You know.
Yeah, actually, you're right. Millennials these days, if you told them that there were only 3 or 4 channels, they kind of think, what? Yeah. What? No Netflix, no nothing like that. Yes, and to think back, we somehow got by, didn't we, with only four channels or whatever. But we were quite happy with what was on them, to be honest.
Well, yeah, like this is the thing. Like don't get me wrong, I have binged my realm of Netflix, like Amazon, and like look, just like yeah, you should have seen me in 2020, just like yeah, a man on furlough, just like going, what am I gonna watch today? Like let's between that and podcasting,
thank God for Netflix.
Yeah, my cheek sat on the sofa for a very long time watching a lot of lots of shows, but like the whole thing of having to show up at a time religiously to watch a show, and if you missed it and if you didn't have a video recorder, you won't be able to see that episode for a very long
no, exactly. At the time, we thought that would be it, didn't we? We didn't realize that maybe 30 years down the line, it would be on every week. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. It was a completely different way of watching television. Back then, you had to, there was no video recorder. It was an appointment of view, wasn't it? You would tune in that evening at that time on that channel for that program for each episode. And you wouldn't do other things, would you? You wouldn't be texting a relative and putting your online order in for the supermarket. You would actually literally just spend that whole hour concentrating, looking at the television screen.
Yeah,
our whole habit of viewing has changed over the years because now, of course, we know that if we miss something, we can just quickly rewind, can't we? Or we can save the whole thing on computer. It's all on demand, so we can do 3 or 4 different things at the same time, and then maybe just kind of keep rewinding now.
No, absolutely, and like this is the thing. Like yes, down to our little brick devices, you can literally watch TV anywhere. You know, like so it's like kind of trippy in that side, like kind of So I've got to say, like with regards to when you first started University Challenge, okay, the format of the show doesn't seem like it's changed that much from back in the day when it wasn't on ITV, when it came to the BBC to present day. But what has changed? Because I kind of, you know what I mean, I'm a casual observer. You've been in the trenches for how many episodes now?
Oh, well, man and boy, I have.
Man and boy.
Well, I started doing University Challenge 25 years ago. When I was only about 10. 11 then. And as Jeremy always says, you know, the rules are as constant as the Northern Star, and they are. The rules have rarely ever changed for the program, which is probably one of its strong points, because at least you pretty much know how the game is played. Then, don't you? It's not difficult to learn. If nobody's seen it before, they can pick up the basic format, you know, in a few minutes, which is good. I think the biggest change over that time is social media. Because now, of course, everybody's watching it, everybody's commenting on the program on social media, whether it's, I don't know, Twitter or various accounts. And it's quite surprising how, as a student going on a program, you can pretty much be a star in about 20 minutes, you know, depending on if there's something, if there's a clever student, you know, or a student that's a kind of a natty dresser, or whatever, they can be quite nationally famous in no time at all. I suppose that's both a blessing and a curse in this day and age, as it is with anybody who puts himself in front of a TV camera, I guess. But yes, there's a great deal more exposure for the students when they go on there. They seem to be under a great deal of scrutiny from a lot of people on social media.
Yeah, I can imagine. Like, I can imagine that. Yeah, that pressure is totally real, because look, I spent a time living in Cambridge for about 18 months. So, like, you know, the sort of, my lady, she was doing an MBA, and like I was basically like the whole gown, like there's a thing called gown in town, people. You must already know this, like old saying. Like, yeah. And in that sort of gown world, you kind of, it's very sort of not incestuous, but pretty much a lot of people know what you're doing, who you are, and going around that in your individual college. So, like, I can imagine anything what elevates you, and especially in the like a town like Cambridge or Oxford, there, like, where those colleges can be, how can I say, just a smidge competitive. You know what I mean? Yeah, I think they'll become very intensely, like, the spotlight will be on them quite intensely, and plus other universities as well, like just having a pop or whatnot. Because, look, trust me, everyone has their sort of glorious 1 round or 2 rounds where it's like, I know everything, I'm a genius. Look at me roar. But coming in week after week, yeah, because they were just, oh, what was the name of that? Was it Queen Mary's? They were absolutely shocking. They had the lowest point score. I can't remember.
I can't remember the team either. I think it's the one where they got 25 points or something, I think. Yes. I always felt really sympathetic in the studio when I'm sitting there, and maybe just out of nerves, a team has hit the buzzer, and as you know, if you incorrectly interrupt to start a question, you give the wrong answer, and you've interrupted, you lose 5 points. And in those early stages of the game, there have been situations, you know, where a team's gone down to -10 or -15 or whatever, and then but they've managed to claw it back. But I can sense their panic, you know, that kind of horror, you know, as the score goes into a minus figure, and then an even greater minus figure in the first few minutes of the show. And it must be a terrible feeling.
Oh, trust me, look, trust me. As I sit comfortably at home, like, yes, like, yeah, of course, that's easy. Without the glare of cameras, lights, and like a studio setting. Like, I don't know why they can't get that right. Yeah, I understand. And like, yes, my armchair judgments aside, but it still is one of those things where you're like, oh no, oh no. Yes, like, come on, guys, pull it together. You can do this. You can do this. But
Yes.
have you like witnessed a team where you just like go, only the wrath of God can stop them now? Like, just going a real tear.
Yes, yeah, there have been several teams over the years that just seem like a juggernaut, you know.
Yeah.
And they all just have a rather good knowledge. If they take a science person, they've got an arts person, they've got somebody that specializes in all of those, and they collaborate, they confer properly. And that's a really important thing, to confer on the bonus questions. And yeah, we've had some absolute runaway teams that have done incredibly well, and then they've come back and they've done incredibly well again, and they're just also down to earth. I quite envy that ability, to have so much knowledge, to be able to recall that knowledge so quickly.
I have that.
It must be wonderful. But yeah, and they always come in and they always say, "Oh, I'm terrified," but they all look so relaxed, you know. I think it's great. No, I do love meeting all the students. They're brilliant, and they remind me of what it was like to be young. That's another thing, you see.
You're merely but a youth, sir. A youth.
God bless you, Governor.
Now, like with University Challenge, which is a very much a controlled setting, like everything, like I've sat through a couple of recordings in my time, stop, go, and you know what I mean. And like
Yes.
I think we had a quick discussion about this at one of the events we were at. I think it was the Energy Awards, and you said, yeah, it takes about like an hour or 45 minutes to record.
It's yeah, roughly about 40 minutes actually. And as you say, I've been to a lot of the shows in London, like you, some of the big, kind of Friday night BBC shows and whatever,
Yeah.
which seem to take about 3 hours, don't they, to film a half-hour episode? It must be wonderful if you can do that, but yeah, they seem to take forever. But it must be one of the most efficient programs, University Challenge, to film, because we will do the 29-minute program, including pickups, in roughly 40 minutes.
That's mental.
Which is, well, it's incredible. I think it's down to the fact that we've all been doing it for so long, we all know, we all know, luckily, our little tasks to do within the production. But, and technically it all works incredibly well up there, which is great. And yeah, it is quite amazing to think that we tend to do about 4 shows a day on average. And a lot of people think, what, 4 shows? But actually, the day goes very quickly. It's a lovely team up there. It really is, absolutely. We just thoroughly enjoy doing it. It runs like clockwork. And as I say, we seem to record it so efficiently, about 40 minutes, including all the little pickups. And there aren't many pickups. Usually if maybe a student has clunked their watch or something on the surface of the desk while they were answering the question, we may not have picked up their answer clearly, not on the recording. So we may have to get them to redo a few bits and pieces, which doesn't change the program at all. But yeah, it's a very efficient and quick program to make.
Yeah, because this is the thing. Was it mock the week? You're saying it takes 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours for them to get that recorded.
I don't envy the editing team. That must be quite. You don't need extra sandwiches for that, wouldn't you?
Extra sandwiches, coffee, tea. A conversation with a good psychiatrist, and maybe a little bit more. But yes, but you just think about it, that is 40 minutes compared to 4 hours. Very impressive to get it done in that time. Very impressive. And to get 4 shows out in a day. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And that studio's very busy up there, up in Media City. That's where we do it up in Salford. Yes, where a lot of the BBC has moved up to. And we do it in a studio called Studio HQ4, which does have a whole variety of other programs, like Countdown, comes from that very studio, Judge Rinder, and things like that. But in the past, they used to film the Jeremy Kyle show in that studio. Exactly. I always used to think that it's a good thing, because at least only University Challenge or the Jeremy Kyle show can be filmed at any one time, because you can only put one or the other in there. And that's important, because you imagine the audience of University Challenge meeting the audience of the Jeremy Kyle show. It would be like matter and antimatter. It must never happen. Unfortunately, it never did.
You can't expose the world to that type of pure evil. No, all hope is lost. No. Jeremy Kyle show. Ooh.
I know, and they used to leave. I don't know if you remember the Jeremy Kyle show, but when they got really upset, there were bits of the set where they could run off behind the set and onto a sofa.
Yeah,
and as if they felt like kind of they were away from everything, and then Jeremy Kyle would come in and go, "Look, it's all right, it's all right, it's all right. You don't have to go back into the studio yet." And there are still about 5 cameras, pointing at that person. They used to leave up those little behind-the-scenes bits in the studio whilst we would with the University Challenge set, and we always used to think, "I hope they've been fumigated."
Oh.
with all the things that go on. We never used to touch any of it.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh, I'm sorry. It's like that's just, oh, you touched the Jeremy Carl camera. Yep, you got to go through to decontamination right now. It's like,
Yeah. Because you would go and you would be about to sit on one of those Kyle sofa bits, and you'd be about to get, oh God, no.
Satan, get behind thee, Satan. The cloven image of Jeremy Carl running through. Oh. No, sorry, shouldn't say stuff like that. That's another story. Okay, now I have to ask. Now, like recorded controlled television is one thing, but now, now this is the thing: the chaos of live television. Like say, oh, the British Soap Awards, or the 100th Royal Variety Performance. What fun and games does that hold for like yourself?
Live, even I love the word live. It sounds great as a voiceover. Live.
Yes. Oh,
live. This is the best word in the world for a voiceover. Live.
Oh.
Yeah, I got, well, I am happiest, I think, doing anything that involves something slightly live. I think, whatever it is, because of the adrenaline that pumps through you. And I've spoken to a lot of TV presenters and things, and they don't really kind of do that kind of stuff for ego or anything like that. They all confess that they absolutely love that buzz. And I think most of us in broadcasting or, kind of television or radio, definitely radio, live radio, we all do these things because we like being slightly scared. I honestly think that. I definitely love that feel. I thrive on that feeling of adrenaline, that, the butterflies, that kind of, oh my goodness, I've got 3 minutes now. What's my opening script and all that kind of thing. I absolutely love it. I think it's kind of a drug, isn't it? Really, adrenaline. I think you either thrive on it or hate it. I think if you didn't like it, it could be quite bad for your health. But I'm just a sucker for punishment, and I like being a bit scared. I think maybe that's why I learned to fly. I used to bungee jump at the university. Maybe that's why I'm sick. I was only 5'2" before I started that. Yeah. You're all weak, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, I enjoy doing things that make me a bit scared. So maybe I'm in the right job.
Okay. I was gonna ask you for any sort of tips or tricks for anyone out there who might be in front of a live crowd or whatnot, but it sounds like you're I'm a natural, darling. It comes to me like that. But what would you say you've used as if things weren't going quite right and you're kind of running against it all, how do you sort of rein in the chaos slightly?
I think a little bit of light humor. It's very important not to be flippant, but if there is anything I can say that's light-hearted, I will do it to try and keep things together. And I always try and think of a few things to have up my sleeve, especially at live awards events, like the ones we work at, when maybe sometimes technically things do go a little bit wrong. And at those kind of corporate events, you usually have a really good comedian. They are also very good, but together you can just kind of laugh off any technical problems, or if something goes horribly wrong, you can make light of it. I think that's good. You should never take it too seriously, but you've got to strike that balance between not being flippant but being jovial. And that it's not the end of the world, if anything, on television or an awards event, if it does go wrong, because everybody likes a mistake or a technical problem, don't they?
Well,
I'm glued to the screen whenever anything goes wrong on television, and it's not because I'm actually enjoying it going wrong. I'm just fascinated. You know, you kind of think, right, what's gone wrong? What are they doing about it? It makes great television. You know?
I agree with you, because like the gaff what always, and I can't really say it was a gaff, but the sort of like chaotic live TV moment. There was like, they had this expert on, and he was like being interviewed by the BBC, and like, yeah, you saw like there was a door in the background like this, and all of a sudden the door comes flying open.
Oh yes,
and like his little daughter comes wandering in. That's like da, 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 da. And I was like, yeah. And like it was like, what? And like then you saw the little brother, I think, comes shooting out afterwards. Next thing, you just saw the mother just dart out, just like grab the cow.
That's right, is it? Yeah, the children come in, and the mother kind of creeps in, totally in vision of the camera, but thinks she can maybe avoid it. So you see her, and she's just kind of raining these two children. Isn't it lovely, though? It's funny, I saw that and I thought, actually, this is just real life, isn't it? Yeah. You know, this is, and I thought it was great. I couldn't see anything wrong with it, which is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, no, but it's one of those things which I think adds that touch of magic to sort of live television. And like, yeah, like, if it was always perfect, I think it's one of those things which, yeah, I think it'll be a little bit too sterile, if you get what I mean. So yeah, it wouldn't be good.
Yes. I often used to watch It'll Be All Right on the Night, and there was like one reporter who, he'd obviously, when he was interviewing at a zoo and he was with an elephant, its trunk would keep wrapping around his face, and so I can tell he'd obviously given the elephant, I don't know, some carrots or some sugar lumps or something to appease the elephant. The elephant was all over. And I just think, actually, that would have been a great take to transmit, but, you know, and they treated it as an outtake, because that's the kind of thing animals do. So yeah, I think certain things, they just add a reality, don't they? It's real life.
Ah, indeed, indeed. Now, this is the thing. I am quite tempted to ask, have you had any gaffes in, like, no, being a consummate professional that you are, like, gaffes are very minor, but they do happen, because you're not a robot, sir. Like,
yeah, well, actually, I've got to admit, when I was a continuity announcer, which was live, you'd sit there and you'd have your radio times or TV times, because it was ICV. I did turn up. I got in. I was a bit late for the air shift, so I had the TV times at the ready, you know, see what was coming up, and you would promote things later on in the evening. And so I did my first link of the evening, you know, kind of say, oh, you know, at 7:30 it's Family Fortunes, followed by so and so at 8 o'clock into a program, and then the duty office phoned up and said, Roger, have you just promoted so and so tonight? I said yes, and they said, I think you might have your radio times on the wrong page, because that went out last night. And I'm thinking, oh my God. So yeah, so I was promoting programs that had gone out 24 hours before. So at least a few people phoned the duty office, though. So at least we were getting viewers. So that was good. That was back in Granada. Yes, a daft schoolboy era. But,
God.
And occasionally you mispronounce something. There was a program called Strange But True, which went on about supernatural things, you know, kind of. Now Michael Asper's Strange But True examines extrasensory perception and the various aspects of this strange phenomenon into the program. And
phenomenon. Phenomenon.
Well, that is the trouble. For the rest of the evening, you just sit there going, phenomenon.
Well, you know what? At least you don't suffer from Cumberbatch's like problem with saying penguins. Penguin. Have you seen that? Like,
no, I haven't. No.
You know, basically, he recorded this nature documentary where it was all about this like Penguin Island, and like the one major thing he couldn't do was say penguin. He said penguin, penguin, penguin. He was like, oh, no, penguin. It's like, no, couldn't say it for love, money, or toffee. And you're like, you're practically a rather trained actor. You have done Shakespeare. You have played Sherlock Holmes. You have played superheroes, but you can't say penguin. It's like, it's like, you're a handsome man. You should be able to say this. But no, penguin was the word what evaded him time and time again.
And just so unfortunate, the entire program was about penguins.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like, penguin. Oh, penguin. It's like, he most really has a punching bag with Pingu on it. Just like every time. No. It's like, I hate you. I have one of the things what I didn't realize about you, while I was doing my research, which took me by surprise, you you are the voice of many Land Rover and Range Rover, Jaguar and Toyota car. Do you get people going, wait a second, like if they not related to University Challenge whatsoever, like wait a second. Sounds like my car.
Left after 20 meters. You have arrived at Aberystwyth, Abergavenny, Abingdon.
Oh God!
You spend everyone goes, wow, you know, and it is great to do. It's a fantastic thing to have done, but you go into a dark room for about 4 weeks, and you pretty much say every word that's ever been created, and you have to say it in every different way. And they can actually visualize that they join the words together in like a graph on the screen, so that they sound joined. So that it takes forever. Yeah. So I spent days and days and days, you know, just kind of saying every word. You go in with a massive script, a massive ream of paper plonked in front of you. And so you go down, you see this ream of paper slowly going down and down and down, and it was quite a reward. And then you get to the end of it, somebody else would come in with another ream of paper, and you carry on with that. So yeah, it was actually quite a long process to do all the voiceovers for a sat nav.
Yeah.
But it was, and you also had to pronounce a lot of European towns as well.
Like the beautiful thing what's just come to mind. How is your Welsh?
Yeah. You have just arrived at and things yes, not very good, as you can tell. But I feel a bit guilty though. I sometimes wake up in a cold sweat wondering how many people I've sent down the wrong road, you know, down a wrong way, down one-way street towards a brick wall or something. For all those people, I do hope the emergency services managed to hoist their car out the river whenever I sent them down a wrong turning.
Dear God, like 4 weeks. Like how many hours a day were you doing for this 4 weeks?
We would I'd turn up at about 9:30, which is good. The great thing is you get fed, which is nice. So at least I'll turn up anywhere for coffee and croissants, you know. And then
I haven't noticed.
And then we work through probably to about 1 o'clock. And then we would have a break for about half an hour, and they'd send out for, I don't know, you know, kind of sweet and sour chicken or something like that. And then we'd press on until about 5:30. And it was really clever though, because it's a Japanese company, so these Japanese specialists would fly over.
Yeah.
And they had this amazing software, so they would actually join words together and test them out. And they could actually visually see from the waveforms whether they would work and whether we were doing the right thing. And luckily it went well. And I was amazed when they did join things together, and the inflections have got to, you know, kind of after 10 meters, you know, at this third turning, and you've got to get all those inflections absolutely spot on. But,
Look, I have a sense you might be like the voice of like, Alexa or like Siri in some point in the future. Would you do that? It's like, would you?
why not? Another 3 weeks in a dark studio somewhere. We're saying every word on earth.
Yeah. Could just imagine you just like going like, hey Siri. Oh, and it comes back with your own voice. You're like, maybe my my iPad's just already just kicked in. Stop it, Siri. Stop it. Go away. Okay.
Actually, I've got to admit, yes. Consider I can't escape my own voice. I actually am glad that Siri or Alexa is not my voice. I think that may push me over the edge. I think. Who knows?
So I take it you don't own a Land Rover, Range Rover, or a Jaguar or a Toyota just because of this then?
Just because, yeah, just to avoid me, yes.
it's like,
I mean, there was one occasion when I did all the announcements for an airline for it was one of the Asian airlines, and you start going, welcome aboard this Airbus A330, all that kind of stuff, and then you have to do the safety announcements, an emergency. Kind of, ladies and gentlemen, a potential emergency has arisen, and it's only when you hear the words brace. It was terrifying, and I've got to admit, I thought, what if one day I'm actually flying on that airline and I hear me telling me that maybe we might crash? That was always my biggest phobia.
Yeah, that'll be extremely meta right there.
Yes.
Oh my Lord. That's like, no. It's like I've had a dream about this. And no, it's like, I don't need this. I don't need this. It's like, but like, this is the thing. Like, doing all of this type of work, like, could you, like, it's one of those things, doing the broadcasting, you go, yeah, I expect it to be doing X, Y, and Z. But seeing, like, as you've gone down so many different branches, has it kind of surprised you the way your sort of career sort of developed and grown over the years?
Totally. And I think the greatest thing is that every day is totally unpredictable, totally different. I think maybe I'm happier, doing what I do than I would have been as an airline pilot. In fact, I am, because you do end up doing so many different types of voiceover work, so many different types of broadcasting, and in this day and age with technology, there are so many different ways. And I just get to do I get to do brilliant podcasts with you, which is fantastic. Every day is totally different.
The check's in the mail. Don't worry.
Yeah. But I just think also different thing you do gives you another string to your bow. I think they all require a slightly different, voice and style and a few other skills which you can bring to something else. So yeah, I'm pretty lucky to do it, quite honestly.
I hear you. Yeah, because could you, Matt? Look, I know you love flying. This is why you became did the whole pilot license and everything like that. But let's be honest, it would have been quite the same routine again and again and again. It'd just be sort of different airports you would have flown into. But yeah, it would have been quite the cookie cutter experience compared to what you're doing today.
Absolutely. And I've got a few friends who did actually persevere, and they did become pilots. They had to wait a number of years, and good for them, which is good. I think the one thing I miss is doing the announcements as a pilot. Don't they sound cool? They're in the cockpit going, I know, and then once over the channel will be, heading into Amsterdam, popping down with a temperature 22 degrees Celsius. They love it, don't they? And it must be great. I would love to do that.
Yeah, I think you've made up for that sort of missed opportunity with with your shining career. Let's just say, come on now, you've most probably announced more names and gone through than most people have had hot dinners in your time, especially when you've got to question and then it's the person's name on University Challenge as well.
I guess so. And in fact, Thomas Benson, is a brilliant questions editor on University Challenge. He did a few calculations because I couldn't work out how many episodes I've done. I've never really kept any record. And I've now filmed about 980 since I started. And I was thinking, how many names would that be? I mean, thousands. And we get some great names. I think some of the best ones are the Sri Lankan ones, like Warnakulasuriya, which is just fantastic.
Warnakulasuriya. Oh,
yes.
Yeah. I like that name. I'll ask you to spell it, but I like that name. Oh, that rolls off the tongue quite nicely. But oh my God, Jesus, 980 episodes.
Yeah, and you say Jesus actually. When Jesus have come on in the past, Jesus College that is. We've had some great. We've had Jesus Jones, and so yeah, so towards the end of the program, I'm going Jesus Jones.
it's like meanwhile, up in heaven, why is someone calling my name all the time? Stop it. Stop it. Oh, I love it.
Yeah, that's some great ones. Newcastle Brown.
Oh.
That's a good one. Yeah, some great ones.
Newcastle Brown. It's like, Newcastle Brown. Yes, please.
Yes, please. I'll let you fight for me.
It's like 10 drinks later. Let me tell you something. It's a wonderful time. I like you. I like you a lot. It's like out of it. But I have to ask. Now, I have talked to you and went, hey, you should do a podcast. You should do a podcast. And yeah, do you think you will do a podcast? Would this be something in your sort of near future possible?
It might do. It might be, because I do miss radio, for that kind of chattiness, that warmth. There are still some great radio. Radio 4 is, indispensable, totally indispensable, because you have that kind of wonderful thing. So yeah, who knows? I won't say no to anything, quite honestly. Everything is possible. So we'll see.
Yes. And yes, don't you worry, I'll get you to do it. Slowly but surely. It'll be a long campaign, people, but I'll get him on there. But yeah, like, if you had the opportunity, do you think, like, if Radio 4 came a knocking at your door, like, would you do it if you're not doing it already? Excuse me, I don't know.
No. There are some incredible people on Radio 4. Absolutely incredible, especially on the Today program. I wake up to the Today program, and I love it. There are some fantastic people on there. I don't really know whether I'm good enough for radio. Mind you, there was a time I didn't know I was good enough for anything. Maybe I'm not. But yeah, I would like to dabble, perhaps. That kind of radio station would be wonderful. But in the meantime, I really do enjoy listening to the people on there. There are some great people. Yeah.
Like it. Now, with your current broadcast journey, like, podcasts aside, Radio 4 aside, like, where would you like that journey to take you, like, down the road, say in the next 3 to 5 years?
I would actually, one of my ambitions is to be the character in an animation. Because I do character voices for a number of things. I think one of my dream jobs would be to be a character in an animated program of some kind. I often think, kind of all those people who've been on, kind of maybe been in The Simpsons, or even like just Thomas the Tank Engine or something. It must be fantastic, to come up with the voice of a character.
Yeah.
And they're the realms of acting which my career often crosses into. And there's more to it than you think, because if there is a character in an animation, you've got to look at it and you kind of think, well, what shape is it? What size is it? And how will that affect the voice? And yeah, I would actually love to do that one day. Maybe be the character or characters in an animation. That would be wonderful. And when I look back to Bernard Cribbins, sadly passed away recently.
Yes.
Who narrated the Wombles and that, and he was just incredible. Coming up and thinking, a lot of it he ad-libbed. and
like,
just put in his own little mannerisms and looked at the animation for, well, it looks like this Womble is kind of sighing or, you know, all these little bits. And it must be wonderful to do something that creative. Yeah, I think that's the dream of a lot of voiceover artists. But yes, an animated program would be a dream one day.
Animated program. Okay. Like, this is a thing. Like, hopefully you'll get that animated series and yeah, make it happen in a major way. Like, this is a thing. Like, film one thing, but animated series. I often wonder if, like, yeah, film or a series, because like don't get me wrong, there are some films which are so iconic it sticks with us. But when you mention the Wombles, like Bernard Cribbin, and like, yeah, like the TV series, if they've been going on for a long time, it has that sort of much more of a connection, of like a friendly connection, if you get
Yes.
that. So it's like, yeah, I think, yeah, I get that. Yeah, love it.
But who knows? Yeah, who knows what happens? And it's funny because everyone thinks, oh, it's all right for you. You know, you've got loads of voiceover work. It kind of goes up and down. Sometimes you're very, very busy, and then you get periods like, well, this, you know, August.
Right.
It gets very quiet, you know, and you kind of think, oh my goodness, you know, is the phone going to ring? So you never know what's around the corner. I think that's one thing I like, though. You know, things do pop up out the blue, you know. Yeah, suddenly you're narrating a documentary about something or whatever. So yeah.
Hey, absolutely. Look, I've got to say, like, yes, August, quiet month. You like, at work, it's been a difficult time. Let's just say,
yes.
But yeah, that's another story. But like, yeah, I have to ask, and this is this will be my final question. And like, you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, what was something you were what was the last thing you were grateful for?
What was the last thing I was grateful for?
Or had gratitude for?
I think I was, and I say this in a positive way. I think I was grateful for having a very fantastic relationship through my life with my parents. Which, and I feel very, yeah, and it's not a downer because I lost my mum a couple of years ago, but I actually don't have any regrets or guilt or I feel that anything was missing. And I've always had a fantastic relationship with my parents, and I feel very lucky for that. I've always been very grateful for that. So yeah, it's one of many, many, many things I've been grateful for. Yeah.
Perfect. Now, you know,
Philosophical and very happy. Yes.
no, like, this is the thing. I'm glad you've had that, because there are many a person out there who are not as fortunate as you to have that. And like, you know, it's really refreshing to hear, you know?
Well, yeah, I think like everybody else, I take a lot of things for granted, you know. What you do is human nature. And so, yeah, I've basically given myself a good slap on the cheek every so often to remind myself actually of the things that are good, you know, and that we have. So, yeah. Tilling's final thought. It's like Jerry Springer, isn't it?
Hopefully not like that, Sean.
No.
Thankfully, I do not need a crew of security. Like someone fending off, like trying to kill someone else because they're the father of their child and stuff. Like, no.
I mean, how did they come up with these things? It was amazing. So, yeah.
Yeah, let's just say, yeah, a lot of coffee and, yeah, other substances which might have been used at the time to come up with some of the crazy things to get those people in there. Thankfully, they're not on TV as much. Like, the craziness is still out there, ever lurking, ever stalking, as they say. Oh, dear. Okay. Roger, I have to say thank you for coming on today. You, sir, have been
pleasure, my friend.
A superstar. Can you tell the lovely people out there how they can find you, how they can get in contact with you on these interwebs?
My goodness, I don't know. Well, you can book Roger Tilling through Hobson's International, the leading voiceover artist agency. So that's my agent, Hobson's. I think there are bits about me on IMDb. I didn't put them on there. I don't know how they get on there, but it's nice. I'm not complaining, you know. I do have a YouTube channel with a few bits and pieces on Roger Tilling. But yeah, and University Challenge, I think he's coming back in a few weeks' time on BBC Two, and it's 60 years, 60th anniversary. We've got a special documentary coming out. Yes, you can watch 60 years of University Challenge. I hog about 20 minutes of that hour, I'm afraid. So
it's all about me, darling. It's all about me.
The Roger Tilling Show. And we have a few little bits of the program as well.
Yes, you guys, the little people, but you know, this Roger Tilling. Yes. Star extraordinaire, always willing. Like...
Hey, good to see you. Always a pleasure.
The honor's all mine, sir. The honor's all mine. And once again, thank you for coming on today. Yeah.
Thank you.
No problem.
Take care, and I'll see you soon.
Oh, wait 1 second. Yeah, and I'd like to say thank you to you, my friends, my life warriors, for sticking with us to the end of the show. Yes, please stay safe, stay well, be awesome, be excellent, be fantastic. Be all the positive bees you can be in this world, and then some, guys. Have a great day. And yeah, keep pushing forward. Peace. And we are...